I never thought I'd fall in love again at 72. Not after losing Margaret. For 50 years, she was my morning coffee, my evening peace, my whole rhythm of life. When she passed, the world didn't end. It just went quiet. For 2 years, I lived in that quiet. The kind that hums between the refrigerator and the ticking clock. I'd wake up, make 1 cup of coffee instead of 2, and watch the neighbor's cat walk across the porch, like it was doing me a favor by existing. My daughter Susan kept saying, "Dad, you should meet people, join something." Join what? The loneliness club? I told her, "Sweetheart, when you've had the best, you don't go shopping again." But life has a sense of humor. It finds cracks in your grief and plants tiny seeds of surprise there. It started with the park. Every morning, I'd walk the same path. 4 laps around the little lake behind the library. Same ducks, same benches, same old men talking politics like it still mattered who was president. And then one morning, there she was, sitting on my bench. A woman in a light blue jacket, her silver hair tied in a neat bun, holding a paperback and squinting at the sunlight, like it owed her an apology. I almost walked past, but she looked up and smiled. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" she said. Her voice had that mix of warmth and tiredness you only hear in people who've seen both storms and sunsets. I nodded. It was my bench, but I'll share. She laughed, not offended. "Fair enough. I'll give it back tomorrow." But she didn't. The next morning, she was there again. And the next. And soon, we started talking. Just a few words at first, about ducks and weather and how coffee prices were highway robbery. Her name was Eleanor. Widowed, 70, lived 3 blocks away. Her husband, Ben, had been a jazz musician. She still wore his old watch, even though it didn't tick anymore. "I like how it feels," she said, turning it on her wrist. "It reminds me time isn't the only thing that moves." I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded, like I understood, though I think she knew I really did. Over the next few weeks, our conversations grew longer. We talked about kids who called too little and doctors who called too much, about songs that no one played anymore, about how both of us hated being told we were still young at heart, like it was supposed to make loneliness easier. One morning, she brought an extra thermos. "Black, no sugar, right?" she asked. I laughed. "How did you know?" She shrugged. "You look like the type who doesn't sweeten things that hurt." That morning, I laughed harder than I had in years. And just like that, the world started sounding alive again. The ducks seemed louder. The air smelled fresher. Even the creak of the bench sounded like music. We never called it dating. Seniors don't date. We simply show up for each other. Sometimes we walked in silence. Sometimes she'd tell me about Ben, and I'd talk about Margaret. There was no jealousy. Just 2 people holding each other's memories gently, like fragile glass. One day it rained. I almost didn't go to the park, but habit dragged me out. She was there, sitting under the gazebo, waiting with 2 cups of coffee. "You're crazy," I said, shaking off my umbrella. She smiled. "So are you. That's why it works." We watched the rain together, our hands almost touching on the bench. And for a second, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Not youth, but peace. The kind of peace that comes when you realize the heart doesn't retire. It just waits for the right company to start beating loudly again. That night, I went home and took down Margaret's photo from the mantel. Not because I loved her any less, but because I finally understood something. Love isn't a single chapter. It's a whole book. And sometimes, when you think the story's over, life quietly turns the page for you. Eleanor and I still meet every morning. Some days she forgets what story she was telling halfway through. Some days I forget my walking stick. We laugh about it. Old age makes you forget things, but it also makes you remember what matters. A few weeks ago, she said, "Do you ever feel guilty for feeling happy again?" I took her hand. Soft, warm, trembling. "Every day," I said. "But then I think maybe the ones we lost would want us to keep the light on, not sit in the dark." She smiled, tears behind her glasses. Ben used to say the same thing. We sat there, listening to the ducks again. The sun broke through the clouds and fell across her face. And I thought, at 72, I didn't fall in love again with someone new. I fell in love with life again.